general impact. Because to read about leadership, Muslim leadership in a business school at a university in Malaysia might not be very extremely interesting for a person in Sweden. It could be, but I'm saying that it could be of less interest than if you write about leadership. Perhaps. Clarity. Clarity is something that makes your paper convincing. You have to be extremely clear with everything in the paper. Which concepts you use. You have to define all the concepts extremely well. And you have to have a very clear aim, etc. And there should be a clear contribution. And try to not include too many concepts about methodology in the paper. Try to instead write about what did you do and why. What did you do and why? And I have written here operationalization. With operationalization, I mean that you have to have a clear description of how you have done the study on the basis of the concepts. Now, let's say that I am going to investigate learning in this university. Then I would have to define what learning means. And if we say that learning is actually a change of behavior of people, then I would have to find a way, if I should, for instance, interview people about change of behavior. I'm not sure that would be the best method. But how can I measure that behavior has been changed? Which exact questions do I need to ask if I should interview? This is what operationalization is. Sometimes in papers I read, the case study or the questionnaire is about one thing, and the discussion is not connected. It's with a totally another thing. There has to be a very tight connection between all parts, I would suggest. The paper also needs some kind of professional appearance, and it's very difficult to explain what professional appearance is. But when the reviewer sees or editor sees a paper for the first time, it should look professional. It should look like that, yes, this is a paper we want. And then the reviewer or editor gets a good feeling, and then if there are some things which are not that good in the paper, you would not be rejected. You would get the notion that, yes, your paper is accepted, but you have to do these and that changes. And professional appearance is actually also how the paper looks. It's about the title. It's about that you have written the paper in accordance to the journal's author guidelines, all those things. The first impression is very important for the reviewer or the editor. Yes, relevant and appealing title, as I said, and very thorough, of course. Everything has to be, I mean, perhaps when I write a paper, I start to write something and then I revise it. And I perhaps revise my papers 30 times before I send them in for the first submission. So you have to write and revise, write and revise, write and revise. When it comes to what I said before, to connect to an interesting ongoing debate, you also would have to review the literature in this area. What is it that others have written in this area? And how do I connect to this? What do I have to contribute to this debate. And if you don't, if you can't show that this, with the brilliant idea of sending people through the world instead of using heaters and air conditioners, if I can't show and prove what others have written about this, review the literature, then my paper wouldn't be convincing. And sometimes I describe it as your contribution is a white hole, and you would have to cover what is around the hole. I mean, if you, for instance, would write a paper about Muslim leadership in Malaysia, you would have to cover what is written about this before. And why is there a need for more research about this? What is it that they didn't take up? That's also a very main issue. Language. Yes, we have talked about the language, and I suggested before that you could get some help from inside the university if there is no money to hire an English-speaking copy editor. You could always perhaps try to get help from the language department at your university. And I think that a good suggestion is to copy edit your paper before the first submission. Especially people, native English people from UK or United States, they are very sensitive for the language, as you might know. So, and they can sometimes reject or say, think that, yes, this might be a good paper, but I don't have the time to read it because the language is so bad. So it's true what someone here said before, that the language is a barrier. But then let's do the best of it until all journals in the world are in Swedish. Then we do the best out of it, and we try to get help with the English. We can improve ourselves. We could arrange language courses at the university, especially for those who want to publish their work, perhaps, to be held by the language department. Could also be an idea. A paper should be easy to read, I think. When I have read a paper, and my first thought is that, well, this must have been very easy to write because it was so easy to read. Then I know that this is a very good paper. Everything that takes me much time to read, I have to go back and ask, why is this? Not so good. But when I just can read it through and understand it for the first time, then I know it's a good paper. And the structure, of course, also has to be very logical. I mean, there should be a line through the paper which is very easy to follow. Some general advice, finally, in this presentation. I think that stick to one idea per paper. It's so easy to, you want to bring in this and you want to bring in that, and you think this could be worthwhile, and you have read this book and you want to, etc. Stick to one idea per paper. It's better that you write many short papers then. Or you could write a book, perhaps. And follow the author's guidelines for the specific journal you want to submit to. And try to get feedback from colleagues.